Good morning, everybody. Wisconsin State Senator Romaine Quinn is our very special guest today, Thursday, September 28th, 2023. Sorry about the late start this morning. We had a little technical issues, but kind of find out it's so true when they say just unplug everything, plug everything back in. It works like 90% of the time. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Learn more at americansforprosperity.org and join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. As a reminder, Senator Quinn joins us on the last Thursday of every month to discuss all things going on in Madison and, of course, in the 25th Senate District. If you've missed any of our previous chats, you can watch a recording of those on our website at DrydenWire.com, right here on Facebook, or it's probably easier to just go to our YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/DrydenWire. As always, if you have a question for the congressman, the senator, that's a little foreshadowing there. You can watch a recording of those. I'm sorry, I lost my spot in my script. Oh yeah, just let us know if you have any questions. We already see Mike. See, Mike screws me up every time he comments. I feel like he's going to say something sarcastic. So I noticed that, and I shouldn't look at the comments before I get through my script. I just shouldn't. Romaine, good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning. Glad we got her all figured out.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, speaking of Mike, you see that press release about him? The top seal. What?
We always knew Mike was special, and now we know it for sure.
Yeah, well, whatever. All I know is he's been on our show in the past, and it seems like every time we have someone on our show, they win awards. So you're welcome, Mike.
That is true. How many years has he been there? Didn't he help build the original hospital? Like 60-some years?
I think he's been there for 67 years. Or maybe that was 67, something like that. He's been there for 30-some years. But congratulations, Mike. And that's is that an honor for you when you have someone in your district? Because your district covers Barron, Washburn, Burnett, and parts of Sawyer, I believe.
And right? Iron. And Price and Ashland and Bayfield.
That's right. You have such a huge district. When you see stuff like that, and you know Mike, is it one of those, wow, that's outstanding? Does it mean more because it's in your district, or it wouldn't have mattered? It's just, I know Mike, and congratulations.
Yeah, no, I think we should always celebrate the people, the wins, the businesses that go above and beyond and excel in our district. Absolutely. I mean, I'm obviously biased. Whenever I'm in Madison, I tell my colleagues I have the best district in the state, which I do. And then, boom. Then you've got Mike Schaefer and Spooner that just verifies what I said. So
isn't that awesome?
Yep. So he's been there like 30 years.
35-ish years or something like that.
And then, so that's a big anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
And I think DrydenWire has a big anniversary coming up.
Shut up. What?
Not you and Jerusha, but you and
we already had ours. This Sunday, October 1st, will be our 8-year anniversary at DrydenWire,
this
Sunday, October 1st. October 1st, 2015, we went live. So holy cow. It doesn't feel like 8 years.
You envision DrydenWire today what it is when you kicked it off the ground 8 years ago?
No, I knew it was going to work. I felt like there was a hole there, because we have weekly papers, which are fine, right? That's not banging on weekly papers. That's just what it is. There's probably not enough content to put out on a daily basis, but at the time, nobody really used social media. There really wasn't an online presence, and I wanted it more like daily, not even, just up to the minute kind of stuff. So I knew there was a hole there, but honestly, if you looked at our business plan, it was pretty simple, like bullet points. And the key was be flexible. The nice thing about doing online instead of a newspaper is we get to see what people want to read. So like the first year or 9 months, I didn't even know what a criminal complaint was. So we didn't do any crime and court story stuff.
Sure.
And then we did like one, and wow, how much people read them. Like, okay. Then we put out like fishing reports, and nobody cared, at least not on our medium. So that was the nice thing, and that was the whole goal. Let's just be flexible and adjust, and what people want to read, that's what we'll keep posting. So no, I didn't really see it where it is today. What's that?
Number one digital news outlet in the state, Northwest Wisconsin. The state.
Yeah. I think Wisconsin right now did an article that a little while ago that we're the most read independently run news outlet in the entire state of Wisconsin, which is stupid. That's just stupid.
Again, I have the best district in the state. I've got the number one digital news outlet in the state. It just wins. Just keep
Wins
winning.
all the way around. Wow, we already have a question. Mac Kirkpatrick. Good morning. Any updates on the status of the judicial vacancy in Barron County? Yes, that's a great question to Judge Bittney. And by the way, if anybody doesn't know Mac Kirkpatrick, if there is a short list out there in this world that has a list of just the greatest human beings in Wisconsin, he's got to be on it. Matt is legit. Love that guy. But yeah, good question. Fitch and I talked about it on Tuesday, and he's very concerned. Is there any updates that you're aware of?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're waiting for Judge Kirkpatrick to move to Barron County. But he said he's not doing that. So, yeah, the governor does not communicate with our office at all on this issue. But I can see from a law enforcement perspective, even a judicial perspective, like we have 3 branches in Barron County for a reason. We need 3 judges to operate. Our 3 judges also support the judge work in other counties. And so there is a hole right now in northwestern Wisconsin, and Judge Bittney is now officially retired. And this announcement was made in May. So I don't know how many applicants he's gotten. I don't know how many people he's turned down.
5.
I don't know. I'm guessing people have applied. And so I don't know if he's waiting for someone in particular.
Well, come on.
Interesting to know. So
Come on. And listen, I'm not banging on the governor because he's a Democrat. This would probably, I don't know for sure, but this would be something also, like if Scott Walker was there, the outside opinion, outside looking in, is it's a political thing. Got to find the person that aligns with what they want if this is an appointment. I had the governor's office confirm to us about a month ago. So let me start over. There was the announcement of this position, you're right, back in like May.
Yep.
And then I believe there were 2 applicants. They didn't love either of those 2, apparently. So they opened it up again, and the deadline, I believe, was like August 19th, something like that. So after that, I contacted the governor's office, and I said, how many people had applied, and where are we in this process? They had said 5 total. So I'm aware of those 5. 3 of them I'm independently confirmed. The other 2, the people that are in the know, all say the same names. And a couple of these I don't really know that well. Another 2 of them are absolutely qualified.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not picking somebody, and based on what you're saying, what Fitzy said, the sheriff in Barron County, that, okay, let's go. This is going to start hurting the judicial system real fast.
Yeah.
So it has to be, right? It just has to be. We got to find someone who is like a Protasewicz that's going to align with everything that we want. And again, I'm not banging on Democrats. That's how politics work.
Right.
Which I understand. Yeah. But when it starts hurting the judicial system, that's enough. Right?
And the term ends, I think, next year.
Like in a minute.
Is going to have to run. So just get someone in there and get going.
Yep. Yeah, I think you have to take out you got to file the papers or take them out like December or January or something already. And we're already in like October pretty much.
Quick Judge Bittney story. So I never knew. I found out because I wound up in court on accident that he was the DA in Washburn County before he came down to Barron.
Yeah.
And so when I was first running for mayor of Rice Lake back in the day when I was 19, like most 19-year-olds, I didn't have a checkbook. And so when I would pay for campaign supplies, I would have my mother write a check and then I would give her cash. So when I went to log my campaign finance report, I logged it in a manner where it looks like my mom gave me $2,000 when in reality we spent $2,000, but I just gave my money through her. So I was referred to the district attorney's office for a campaign finance violation.
Oh, no.
And at the time, Angie Baranek did not want to take the case due to conflict of interest, meaning that I don't think she cared for me. So she wanted to make sure I went to a different county. So I went to Washburn County, and that's when I first met Judge Bittney. And we had a, pre-conference meeting. I don't know the terms. And we talked, and he's like, Romaine, technically, yeah, you didn't do it, but it looks like you did it. And we can't really backtrack it. But I'll never forget. He said, just don't quit. Don't let this get you down. You're going to have to pay the fine. Talk to the judge. But he's like, whatever you do, don't let them get you. Don't get out of the race. Just keep doing what you're doing. So that was my first experience ever with Judge Bittney, and I'll always remember that. So.
Well, and he actually hired Jerusha, my wife, who's the office manager at the Washburn County District Attorney's Office. He was the one that actually originally hired her 11-ish years ago, and then a few months after, that's when he was became the judge down in Barron. So yeah, I guess we like Mike Bittney then.
Yep.
too bad he's gone. Um,
Mike Schaefer, Mike Bittney.
yeah, holy cow. Oh my goodness. So Brian, you got to get a. I can't put it all on the screen. I can't even read all that. If you have a question, if you could put it in one sentence, that'd be great. Craig Sutherland has a how do we the people gain trust with our government? It's to a point where my his care matter doesn't budge. Hey, how do you answer that one?
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, my meter is there too, and I'm in government, so I think it's different on a state level. I think it's different when you can get to know your representatives a little bit. I think we're really fortunate with Congressman Tiffany in our district. You know, obviously I'm biased. He's Republican, but he came from the state legislature. And I think anyone that runs for Congress that comes from a state legislative seat really, really appreciates the grassroots, the local connections, actually knowing people versus, because that's what you have to do as a state legislature. You have to know every county board member, every town board member, every mayor, everyone that runs the nonprofit in town, things like that. And you build those relationships. So one, I think that's maybe where you gain more trust in your government because you know that person. And that's why I think we're lucky at a federal level to have someone representing us that went through that same process, that understands those local connections are important because he came up through the legislature. But other parts of the state, you know, I guarantee most people don't know their congressman at all. They didn't come from a place where they were already out in public, which neither's right or wrong, but I think we're fortunate here.
I want to quickly go back to the judge, that vacancy there. Now, granted, there is a Democrat as a governor right now, and you are, not a Democrat. At what point do you make a phone call? Do you send something down, or you're not talking to the governor because obviously there's a process before this that the governor isn't probably making these decisions. He's a governor, he's got to run a state. He has a panel of people, and they're the ones who kind of, narrow this down, then recommend to the governor. That's usually how it works. At any point, do you call down and say, listen, this isn't a partisan thing, but this is a part of my county. Just pick someone, will you? Let's go. Do you do that at some point, or is it, no, that's their issue, and I'll leave it alone?
I mean, I think if it starts to get more egregious and we are even further down the line, I think at some point, yeah, he may get a call from Dave or I. Now, will that do anything? Not sure. I mean, even when Governor Walker appointed Brian Wright to Barron County, his office reached out, said, here are the candidates that applied. What do you think? Do you have any input? Do you know any of them? Ultimately, he picked Brian Wright, and that's not who I told him to pick anyway. And then it turned out Brian Wright's phenomenal. So, his office and staff saw something I didn't. And long term, I think Barron County is better off for it. But at least there was the contact, and that's not happening right now.
I remember, so I was told this story. I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Frost. He was the district attorney that was appointed, I believe, by Scott Walker in Washburn County. So when I started DrydenWire, that was the district attorney. And actually, fun story, he actually married Drew and I. He's only married two people, his daughter and Drew and I.
Are they both still married? Is his daughter still married?
Yeah, he's very proud of that. He's at a 2 for 2. Yeah. But I recall a story that my dad told me, and Tom Frost has confirmed, that there was a situation where it was when Mike Bittney left. And then Tom Frost, I think, was appointed as, I don't know what's called, special prosecutor, just someone that fills in. And then they were going to try to appoint someone, I believe another person was in it, and maybe they dropped out. Well, Tom probably didn't align politically with Governor Walker at the time. But I recall they were a similar situation to this. And again, this is a story that I heard from my father when he was the sheriff, and of course from Tom Frost. And Dad finally just called down there and said, knock it off. Because that's totally Dad. Just pick someone. This person is already there. He knows it. I don't care about the politics. This is a great person for it. Just whatever. Just let's go. And like 2 days later, he gets appointed. So Tom still gives Dad credit for that. So maybe Fitzy will even call down and say, let's go, guys. Just appoint someone. This is hurting our county at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it impacts everybody. And like I said, it impacts other counties because our judges have more work to do now, and they're not lending a hand maybe if there's cases overloaded in Ashland County or other places. So, yeah, it impacts everybody in the region for sure.
So the only thing I had written down here was I wanted to talk about the Barron County Republican Party. I call it a fiasco. But before we get to that, okay, Brian, finally, thank you. It's a little bit shorter. It's just kind of hard to read when it's so much. Why are you, as well as Tom Tiffany and Robin Voss, aggressively pushing for impeachment of our new Supreme Court Justice Janet Protasewicz only because she may address the egregious gerrymandering? Oh, I think you just kind of answered your own. Yeah, so I think the question is, why are you, as well as Tom Tiffany and Robin Voss, aggressively pushing for impeachment of Supreme Court Justice Janet Protasewicz? Is the question.
Yeah, I can see the question now.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's simply not true. Like, one, I don't think Tom Tiffany, from what I've heard, has ever weighed in on it, and he's in the federal legislature and has no impact whatsoever on that process. I saw a statement from Speaker Voss a week or two ago throwing cold water on the idea. And frankly, Brian, I think you've bought into the Democrats' campaign of spending millions of dollars telling people that it's already happening or is going to happen when no article's even been filed. So what I find really disturbing is that we have a justice who ran telling us how she was going to vote on a case before the case got to her, which is a no-no for anyone running for judge office. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to vote on an issue, but a judge is supposed to be impartial, period. And so here we have a justice who takes $10 million from the state Democratic Party, tells us that the Republicans' maps are rigged, invites a lawsuit to come before her so she can rule on it. So we already know how she's going to rule. And then then the legislature puts pressure on her to say, hey, you should probably recuse yourself. It's a conflict of interest considering the people that bankrolled your campaign want you to change the maps, and you've already determined they were rigged. And so now the Democratic Party is spending $4 million to tell me as a legislature not to hold someone accountable. So the whole thing stinks to high heaven. And so you might have gotten one of those ads in the mail. Hopefully they burn well. Maybe you can start your wood stove with it this winter. But the fact is, even the ad is just not true. And so all we're saying right now is, as that case is being litigated, everyone that goes to court should have a fair shake. And if you are going to prejudge a case, recuse yourself. It's that simple. So there is no impeachment. No articles have been filed. There's nothing to impeach the justice on right now. So again, it's a play by the left to make it seem like there's this emergency and it's already happening in order to gin up the base, when in reality that's just not what's happening on the ground.
Well, isn't it true though that she actually didn't say? I've never seen those words. If this is brought before me or the Supreme Court, and if I'm a Supreme Court justice, this is how I'm going to vote. I don't recall ever seeing those words. I do believe that she has stated exactly the maps are 100% gerrymandered and the Republicans suck and all of this. The abortion topic, yes, she has stated a lot of things, but I don't recall ever seeing the words in anywhere, or maybe there has been, but I just haven't seen them, that says, if I'm on the Supreme Court, this is how I'm going to vote, specifically stating that. Unless I'm not, has there been that? Because I don't see that anywhere.
I would encourage the public to actually go online, and I know no one does this, it's boring, but the briefs that we submitted on behalf of the state Senate by our attorneys are actually pretty darn damning. The comments, the quotes that they lay out in that, asking for her recusal, is beyond the pale, really. So it is, I would encourage people to reach out and look at that, and I hope she does that. We'll see what happens. Now I see Brian continues to comment, that's fine. The maps are rigged. You're promoting a lie. Well, that's actually just not true, Brian. You're allowed to say that on Facebook, but it's not true. And I would say this. I mean, look at our map. We're a perfect example of this. When I first ran for the assembly, our assembly district was in Democrat hands for 40 years under basically the same exact map. Democrats held the 75th, the seat that I flipped. Look at the 25th. The Democrats held it for 36 years, over and over and over. And the Republicans got close, but never could pull it off. We kept losing by 1.2 points. And I announced my run for office before I even knew what the new map was going to look like, because I didn't want people like Brian to say that someone drew a map so I could win. So it's just not true. And our district's 50-50. We won by 14 points. Has nothing to do with the line. I'm not afraid of any map. And so I just think, especially up for northern Wisconsin, it's just the tired old arguments we hear over and over again.
And one more thing, because you brought up the $10 million that the Democratic Party had donated to the campaign. I've also seen that like the Republican Party has donated money to other people that ran. Now, not $10 million, maybe a few $100,000. Does that make a difference? I mean, whether it's $250,000 or $10 million, does that move the needle? Is it because of the amount that they donated, or the fact that she had accepted it? Because I can't believe it's the latter. Because I believe what's his name? I think Dan Kelly, I thought, got some money from the Republican Party. So is it just the total amount that is concerning?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people will say too, like, "Oh, you took $1,000 from the NRA, you're bought and paid for," and it's like, I had a $200,000 raise. So if you think $1,000 is going to change where I was at principally, that's a lot different than if the NRA gave me $100,000 to make sure that I won my seat. And traditionally, I think there's been like in-kind contributions and stuff from state parties in the past, but there's never been this full-throated attempt to literally have one party, themselves specifically, not third party groups, not friends outside the building, but that actual state party to invest like that into a judicial race, which is supposed to be nonpartisan.
Well, we've known each other for years. You were probably if you were the first politician that I knew when I started DrydenWire, because you were right here, of course, and then we ended up talking. You were like our second guest ever for a live show. Thank you very much. Back when we had so many issues, and well, just like this morning, we had audio issues and technical issues, and we didn't know what we were even talking about. But you've known me long enough to know that I like the politics part of it, but I'm not naive. I understand this is how it works. But usually, the people that are in power are the ones that kind of there's some benefits to that. So
Sure.
I think that kind of goes to what you're saying. I mean, if the Democrats are in quote unquote power, it would be similar, and Republicans would be all up in arms, and vice versa. It's just kind of how it goes. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. But whatever's happening right now, that seems to be the biggest story.
Right. Yeah, and that's typical. And yeah, both sides do it. Absolutely. And that's why I enjoy this show, because I think we have an opportunity to try to cut through some of that and
Yeah.
get to the
Would you,
root
to put a bow on this Protasewicz thing, where are we in that, and would you support that? How about this? What role do you play as a senator in this? Do you play any role at all? Or is this assembly? Is this everyone? They have to do something first? How does that process work in the event that they did want to move forward?
Yeah, so if an impeachment process is actually going to take place, which again, nothing has been filed, it has to start in the state assembly. So the state assembly has to vote by a simple majority to introduce that. And then I don't know exactly how the process works in terms of how it gets to the Senate, but then
There's not a lot of precedent here. There really isn't.
No, there's not. And then the state Senate will then conduct the trial, similar to the federal government as well. And then there has to be, I believe, a 2/3 vote in the Senate to convict of an impeachment. So again, I don't know even where the majority of my caucus is. Again, if one person deflects, it wouldn't go through, right? So I mean, the odds of it happening, I think, are beyond slim. And we don't have anything right now that she's done that I would argue is impeachable offense. I will say that the liberal majority has been instituting chaos by firing the court director, basically putting the chief justice in the closet, directing staff to listen to them and not the chief justice. There is chaos right now in front of the Supreme Court. So, but again, is that an impeachable offense? I mean, again, we're not even talking about this. The news wants to talk about this because it sells. And so it's politics.
Got it. Speaking of tire fires, hey, what's going on down in the Barron County Republican Party? I saw a story on the Barron News Shield last week or over the weekend. We did end up doing a story on this. You had sent an email. I've heard about this about a couple months ago. I think it was Fitzy had told me that he was at this meeting and said it was just crazy. Like everybody's all up in arms, and like the Republican Party in Barron County is just there's a lot of issues there right now. I never reported on it because that's typically more for like a newspaper, hyperlocal news. That's what they should cover, and they did. Barron News Shield did a great job on that. But you sent a letter to them, so we ended up doing an article on it on Monday. For people who aren't aware of what's going on, what's going on?
Well, to be clear, I didn't send anything to the News Shield. I get a call on Tuesday. I'm in the middle of caucus, and I missed 2 calls from the Barron News Shield. I'm like, okay, there's either an emergency or something important's happening. So I step out of my meeting, and that's when the editor's like, oh, we got the email that you sent to your membership. So someone forwarded the email I sent only privately to membership. And we're doing a story. I'm like, oh, cool. I said, we try not to air family dirty laundry out in the open, but here it is. And that's where I gave you a quote when you called me and said, hey, the News Shield printed this and we're running something. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Should be kept in private. It's family growing pains within our local party. It just reiterates that, one bad apple can spoil the bunch.
So what is the situation? Again, for people who don't know anything about it, we don't need to go into detail. You could broad stroke it. But what is the situation?
I think we have a handful of people that will do anything to cling to control, even if the majority of the members want to go a different direction. And there's just no accountability right now. And so I don't think that's healthy for any organization, for a top-down approach to not listen, care about the opinions of, I would argue, the majority of their membership, and we're dealing with the consequences of that. I will say, now that it continues to go back and forth all over Facebook, which again is unfortunate, I wanted to clarify because the local party at one point, under its current leadership, did send me a letter of censure and wanted to remove me as a delegate for a year, which is laughable because, again, they can't actually do that, but they continue to do things they can't do. But I just want to clarify for the public, a lot of this stemmed from the fact that I called out our local party for not doing something to show recognition of their two officers that were fallen and murdered in Barron County. And I don't need anyone's permission to recognize our men and women in law enforcement. And I couldn't care less if someone wants to censure me for calling someone out for not recognizing our men and women in uniform. So I will do it again tomorrow if that's the case. I am ashamed that the party that backs the badge could not lift one finger to recognize the sacrifice that those families made in our community. And I'll say it again, doesn't bother me a bit. So I could get 10 letters for bringing it up, but I'll always stand behind our law enforcement, and I'm not going to apologize for that. So again, it's unfortunate that this spilled out. It is what it is, and hopefully we can correct it so we're stronger and united heading into 24. It's going to be a big election, and in my opinion, not everyone's, we got to flip those darn 10 electoral votes to the other column away from Joe and Kamala. So we'll see what happens.
Was there a reason given why the powers that be at the Barron County Republican Party didn't want to do anything to recognize those fallen officers? Was it just, hey, we're at a time, or it was like, no, we're not? I mean, was there a reason given?
I think it's because I asked, and since I'm the bad guy right now, since I asked, they doubled down, which is a terrible reason to double down and not recognize our law enforcement. So, and honestly, I don't know what the reason is, and I don't care what it is, because there's no reason, there's zero reason that excuses not doing something. So,
I heard that there are no longer meetings. There hasn't been one in a while, and a couple of people that I know down in Barron said, yeah, my understanding is they're not going to have any more meetings. There's nothing scheduled, and I don't know if I'm assuming it's monthly meetings for, political parties in the counties. I never go to any of them, so I don't know. But they're not having any meetings. Is that true? Have you heard that?
It's been a couple months. It was a busy summer. There was the Second Amendment rally. There was a couple other events, and I assume maybe they're just taking a break off from that. But we haven't heard heading into next month yet. So I'm not sure. Again, I've been blackballed by the party leadership, which again,
yeah, that's real smart, right? You have a sitting in senator, Wisconsin senator in your party, and like, nope, I'm sorry,
right.
That's not logically. I think that way. I'm a pragmatic thinker. Doesn't make any sense to me. How does that help your party?
It really doesn't. But we're going to continue to do the work we've always done. We're holding a potluck next week for those elected officials in Barron County to, again, meet with members and just go over what they do. Because people don't realize we have a lot of local offices, treasurer, clerk of courts, county clerk, I'm totally blanking, register of deeds. And these are all offices that are partisan. They really don't need to be partisan, but they are. And there's a lot of great people that hold these seats, and they never have an opportunity to even introduce themselves or say what they do in that position. So we're going to continue to hold our own unofficial events and get together and meet with membership and talk about what's going on in the county and the state. And we'll just do what we've always done and that's just how it's going to be until we figure out how to fix this.
If there was a meeting that's being that was called, for next month, it was announced, and there's a meeting, would you attend? Are you able to attend? Maybe it should be the first question that you're aware of. Are you able to? And if you were, would you go?
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm not going to let a handful of people continue to do what they want and not have to answer for anybody. So they're usually not fun meetings. But again, if we were just a transparent, open organization that answered membership questions, we wouldn't have a problem. So you bet I'm going to continue to ask questions. I'm going to continue to ask for meeting minutes so I know what's going on. Because those people are in charge of our brand, and what they do will reflect on me as well. And I want to make sure that people understand that, the Republican Party is still something that you should be a part of.
Yeah, and this isn't like the Democratic Party that's upset with you or something, which, okay, fine. Right? It's just so weird. Yeah. And Dave Armstrong. Dave is like the nicest guy in the world, right? And he doesn't even care about the politics part of it. He just wants to get stuff done. And then going after, I don't know, the whole thing is just a disaster. Hopefully it gets resolved.
I've had my tussles with the Barron County Democratic Party online over the years. But I find it interesting that I've actually been I forgot about that.
Yes, that was fantastic.
But I have been treated better by the Barron County Democratic Party this past year than I have my own party.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is interesting.
That's funny. All right, so that went. We got into that a lot more than I thought we would, but that's why we like doing this show. It's an organic show. It just kind of goes where it goes. We have some time left. So what else is going on down in Madison? Are you still going down there right now? Are things happening right now? And if so, what?
Yeah, we're busy, really busy. So I just got back late last night. We had committees all day yesterday, all day the day before. Again, I'm on a number of different committees. The Education Committee, I'm chair of Housing, Real Estate, Forestry, and Rural Issues. We met in the Agricultural Committee as well. So all sorts of bills dealing from helping farmers create a calculator to determine what they could get paid in carbon credits for these businesses that want to feel good and reduce their carbon footprint. If you want to pay a farmer to implement best practices they might already be doing, go right ahead. We had a hearing on a bill Representative Green and I introduced just yesterday. We already had the hearing in the Assembly, now the Senate. So if you remember, Ben, in December, we got just pounded by that snowstorm. And people were without power for almost a couple weeks. We actually, Rowan was born that snowstorm. We went down the night before, and we stayed an extra night in the hospital because we didn't have power at home, so we couldn't even go home. But we found out through that storm that it's illegal for cooperatives, electric cooperatives, to drive UTVs on our highways, even in a storm event, to try to restore power, which is just
that's an oversight. Yeah,
silly at best, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
In many cases, a UTV is the only vehicle that can get to the site and some of that. So we got a bill yesterday. We testified in the Senate on that, hoping to get that to the floor in October. So things are rolling. My pro-life package of bills, again, supporting families that want to adopt, providing up to $10,000 to fund adoptions in this state finally for those that want to take on those kiddos.
Didn't I also see in that bill of yours, I thought I saw something about being able to have the tax credit. Like, so if you normally have a child, a 2-year-old kid, and when it comes time to tax time, you can deduct something or whatever.
Yep.
But that would include people that are pregnant. I thought I saw that somewhere in there, right?
Yes, we want to extend our current child credit or deduction to children in the womb. We know that expenses don't start after the child's born. Expenses start during pregnancy.
Right.
And I believe children in the womb are children, and so our tax code should reflect that as well. So we want to extend that credit. If you show you have a heartbeat and it comes tax time, you can file that child as a dependent on your state taxes. So we want to do that. We want to add some money to pregnancy resource centers. We've got great centers here in our district. Rice Lake does amazing work. There's a center in Ashland, just good people, trying to even just give them minimal support to continue to reach people that say, hey, maybe I want to choose life, but I'm not ready, or I don't have the support, and I need help going through this process. They're there, and I don't know why we wouldn't support that. So yeah, that's exciting. We're going to be moving those hopefully on the floor in October as well. So we're busy. We're rolling.
I'm glad you brought co-op. So this went on our website. This was I posted it last Friday. Oh, you can see that. You know him, right?
Sorry, I was reading all these comments when you put that picture up.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So the headline was, "Bill will keep Wisconsin's power grid in states' hands and out of the control of federal regulators or out-of-state developers." So this was an article from Senator Julian Bradley. It was like an op-ed thing. I don't know if you saw that, but today introduced legislation to retain Wisconsin control over the safety and reliability of our state's power grid instead of ceding that control to federal regulators and opportunistic out-of-state developers. The bill, known as right of first refusal, prevents fragmentation of the state's transmission grid and retains the regulation and operation of the grid of Wisconsin. Are you aware of that? Or maybe not even that specific article. Are you aware of this bill, this topic?
Yes, and I'm torn. And of course, I sit on the Senate Committee on Utilities, so it's going to come right before me. It was a bill introduced last session. There's a lot of complexities to it. So just in a brief nutshell, our energy system right now is, basically a monopoly. I think there was a time where we had a lot more independent ownership of transmission lines, and there was a need. I think at one point the legislature decided to create entities that would maintain the infrastructure to create a reliable power grid. Now, and that being said, those investor-owned utilities are also guaranteed a rate of return for their investors. So the argument is, as we are going to see billions of dollars in investment now come to the state to continue to upgrade, replace, add additional capacity along transmission lines, should those incumbent utilities get the first crack at it since they're already here, or should that be open for a competitive bid process by someone possibly in the state, possibly out of the state? And so on its face value, it doesn't feel right, just because you're saying I was here first and I should get the bid. Now, there are a lot of legitimate arguments, I believe, also that say, well, someone on paper can say it's cheaper, but it's not going to be cheaper. And now you've got a company in Alabama that owns a section of this transmission line that when we have a power outage and need to go work on it, we're calling someone from across the country to say, hey, is your section off or not? We're trying to go fix our section, and would create more of a possibly fragmented system. So it's been signed in Republican states, it's been signed in Democrat states, it's been repealed. So it's kind of messy, but I don't think anyone should be just guaranteed a rate of return by government either. And so there's got to be a way that says there's some competition, but we also want reliability. And I don't know where we thread that needle yet. I was lobbied on it twice this week by both sides. So we'll see what happens.
And for people who don't know what that process is like, you just said I got lobbied by both sides this week. What does that look like? What is that?
Yeah, so AFP comes in my office. They're sponsoring this show.
Oh, yeah.
And,
right. Hey.
And they, right?
Finally, somebody sponsored the show. It's been open for like 3 years. And it's like, everyone's like, we don't want to touch it because it's politics usually. And it's, well, I don't care. Democratic Party could literally sponsor the show. Don't care as long as your check clears.
Right? That's funny. Yeah. But they have the position where, they don't believe an incumbent utility should just have this inherent right to billions of dollars in contracts without a competitive bid. And I get that. And then on the flip side, I had the ATC, some of the energy utility companies come in and say, hey, these out-of-state people don't care about Wisconsin. They say they do it cheaper, but they always go over. And at the end of the day, we're going to create a fragmented system. So there's going to be a lot of continued conversations, which I keep my ears open and try to formulate an opinion on that. So if you have an opinion on how the state should
Brian probably has an opinion. I think Brian's all hopped up on chocolate milk right now. Sorry, that's from a post from yesterday.
Due to Congressman Tiffany, our kids will be able to drink that in school.
That's just exactly right. Yeah, that was like the only bill. I'm like, finally, something that matters. Chocolate milk. Can't take chocolate milk away from kids at school, man. That's just cruel. And why do we even have to be talking about it is stupid.
It is stupid.
That is dumb. And we put that post up yesterday, and people were saying that oh wow, Tiffany, this is what you're really focused on. I'm like, but you wouldn't have to if it wasn't being. Just saying you have to respond to that and say no, we're not doing this. We have to keep talking.
We're the state for Pete's sakes. If our Congress doesn't repeal that, roll out.
Oh my goodness! All right, what do you have coming up this week? It's Thursday now. What do you have coming up?
So, even after this show today, we actually have a hearing on the Utilities Committee. Fortunately, in the Senate, you can call in. I try not to do that because I always believed that if you can drive to Madison and make a committee hearing, your legislator should be there in person, but it just didn't work out today. So we're going to be hearing appointments to the Public Service Commission, which is also very important. So like when an incumbent utility like XL, they'll come to the commission and say, hey, we need a rate hike. We need a 12% upper, which means the commission will then go through, examine the request and say, does XL Energy really need a 12% rate hike? Which again, who pays that?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Every month this winter, you will be paying that. So energy prices are rising across the country, across the state. We are getting requests left and right. And so we're going to have a hearing. We're going to talk to these commissioners, and I want to know, where are you at? Like, we are already seeing double-digit increases, and I want to make sure like you're actually examining these requests, because our ratepayers can't afford it. They just can't afford another energy hike increase heading into the coldest months of the year. So that's coming up right after this. And then next week we've got committees. I've got a school tour. I'm finally getting over to Park Falls. I've had to reschedule their school tour 4 times. I feel terrible. I was supposed to be there today, but I'll be there next Tuesday. So yeah, just traveling the district, working on different bills, and then always ears open. The one thing I wrote down, because I would actually love to hear people's input, is where they are at or feeling on a potential package to keep the Brewers in Wisconsin. Not to go too far in depth, but the state of Wisconsin does own the largest share of the current Brewers stadium. And so if the Brewers leave, we will own a building that's empty with no tenant, which will cost millions to tear down and get rid of. And I don't think anyone wants to see the Brewers leave. But at the same time, I don't want to see any state dollars continuing to be invested to keep a billionaire and their millionaire players to be able to play a sport here in Wisconsin, which is why I was a no on the Bucks arena back when I was in the assembly. So there's a lot of different ideas floating around, making sure locals contribute, raising the taxes on the actual players themselves. The conversation around, well, if they leave, we don't have income tax from the players. Maybe we use their income tax to pay for the stadium. So lots of floating around ideas. But I would encourage you to reach out to our office if you have an opinion on whether
I'll tell you my opinion right now. And I love sports. I don't like the Brewers. But I love sports.
All right, Ben's a no.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when I looked at some of this stuff and what they're asking for, and a lot of it is we need upgrades. That's a big thing, right? Yep. We need upgrades on this and our roof. We need new windows on this whole side. But you want us to, like, you guys didn't incorporate this, right? It's like buying a car or having someone help out to buy the car, and then it's, now I need an oil change. Can you help out with that too? It's, good Lord, Jesus loves me. Seriously? You didn't plan for this? Really? At all? So, no, they have to pay for all. I don't care how they do it, but they got to pay for this. That's my opinion. This should not be taxpayer dollars. It's my opinion. I would be a hard no on this one. I understand the other side, but I'd be a hard no on this.
Perfect. Well, anyone else besides Ben, make sure you weigh in.
The only person that mattered just weighed in. So
news article: DrydenWire wants to leave Wisconsin.
Oh, great. Well, to be honest, I don't know that much about it, but what I do know, I would be a no on it. Yeah. And you don't know where you are in this one yet?
Oh, I'm like a hard no. I'm trying to get people.
Oh, good. Well, all right, there we go.
But I'm trying to keep an open mind, so that's why I'm soliciting input. So if you have an idea, thoughts, concerns, because I don't want to be part of the legislature that let the Brewers leave Wisconsin either. I don't think anyone wants the Brewers to leave, but I also don't want to spend $290 million to keep them here. I just think that's absurd.
Again, some money I'm fine with, but $200, no. Right, help out, sure, because it does benefit our state. But you guys got to come up with something. As in,
and they do. In their defense, they do. I think.
Well, they need to come up with more.
Okay.
You tell them I said so.
We'll just put a new tax on digital news outlets and to help fund them.
You know what? Actually, I think you just got me spun around there. I think I'm on the other side now. All right. What do you think we're going to be talking about? Because you come on the last Thursday of every month. What do you think we're going to be talking about in October, in a month from now?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of bills that are going to be hitting the floor in October that we'll be able to go on or to come on the show and talk about. So, yeah, I think all sorts of topics. There was bills introduced just yesterday to not allow transitioning surgeries on minors in the state. I know that's a very hot button topic nationally. And so that just got dropped. There's bills concerning what just hit yesterday. it's funny, since my wife works for Mayo Clinic put out an alert to tell people to sign on to the bill. So my wife was lobbying me yesterday and about whether or not that people that need OT or PT services should just be guaranteed 12 sessions out of the gate, and so they're not held up by pre-authorizations from their insurance companies. So there's all sorts of stuff that's coming all the time. But if you want to see some of that, you can go onto our website. We've got a legislative website that lists exactly all the bills that I voted for, that I've authored, that I've co-sponsored and signed on to. And then you can try to look for links for other stuff that's been introduced by other members as well. So it's always a lot going on, but try to stay in touch. Or if there's a particular issue that piques your interest, we can always let you know where it's at too. Is it in committee? Did it die in committee? Does it have a shot on making the floor? And what does that look like?
In our Wisconsin headline links this morning that we do every morning, there was one. It rung a bell when you said that. Wisconsin lawmakers fiercely divided on controversial proposal to ban gender transition care for kids. And that eventually links to a WKOW article. 3 legislators are looking for co-sponsors for their proposal under which doctors and other healthcare professionals in Wisconsin could lose their license if they provide gender transition care to kids. Do you have a leaning on this one way or another, where you think you may be or where you are right now? Or are you still in that undecided, I want more information?
Well, I think anyone that has gender dysphoria or, believes they are transgendered, should still be respected like anybody else.
Agreed.
Right? What you choose to do, what you think you want to do, you have a right to do that. This is the United States, right? But when you're talking about kids, you're talking about people who are not sometimes old enough to drive a car. They can't vote. They can't, all those things we restrict. And now we're going to say you're competent enough to start taking hormone blockers or to potentially have a surgery. I think we're in a world that I don't even want to talk about, but how the hell did we get here?
It's tough.
So we'll see what happens. We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to take testimony. Where it's going to go through the process. I think the Assembly wanted to move on that as well. So we'll see what happens. So another great issue. If you have concerns about that, reach out to our office.
All right. Hey, thanks, man. Sorry for the late start. That was a technical issue on our side, so we started 15 minutes late. But thanks for being available to stay on until we're just after 9:30 now. So I may have other things to get to. Thank you so very much. We'll see you next month.
See you in a month.
All right, special thank you to Wisconsin State Senator Romaine Quinn for his continued willingness to come on and talk on an unscripted live chat with us, answer questions. Brian has a lot of stuff in there. I think a lot on gerrymandering. I honestly have not had a chance to read all through that because it's hard to read 2 paragraphs and host and produce a live show at the same time. So I'll read those later, Brian. As a reminder, I will be back with Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald for our 158th episode of Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy next Tuesday. But before that, on Monday, I know, it's crazy. On Monday, though, we're going to be doing a special Monday live show with St. Croix Falls Mayor and our good friend Kirk Anderson. So that'll be at 8:30. Then I think we have some other guests on Thursday and on Friday next week. It's our 8th year anniversary week, so we're going to try to have a little fun and do some stuff. So until Monday, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.